Good morning and happy Easter. It has been a unique Holy Week journey for us all, and certainly one that we will never forget. But I think that today, especially in the midst of everything that's going on, we are reminded that there is nothing in all of creation that will separate us from the love of God that is in Jesus Christ. So I want to invite you to take a journey with me to our children's chapel. If you close your eyes and take a deep breath, imagine yourself in the space of our chapel where the bright light fills the room. And there's so much space and so much love in our midst. And I'm going to tell you a story which builds on our story from last week. In the beginning, the baby was born. God chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word was born, a wordless child. And when the baby looked up into the face of the mother Mary, he already saw the cross. And Mary and Joseph held the baby close and kept the baby warm and gave the baby everything the baby needed to grow. And the baby grew and became a boy. And when he was 12, Mary and Joseph and the whole town of Nazareth left and journeyed to Jerusalem for a high holy day. And when they were on the way back to Nazareth, suddenly Mary and Joseph noticed that Jesus was not with them. They hurried back to Jerusalem, and finally they found him in the temple talking to the rabbis, the priests. And when he spoke, then they listened because he knew so much. And when they spoke, he listened because he wanted to know more. Jesus grew and became a man. And when he was about 30, he went to the river Jordan, where his cousin John was baptizing. You can see the edge of John's hair right here. Jesus said to John, "Baptize me." And John said, "How can I baptize you? You are the Messiah." Jesus said to John, "No, it is written, you will go to prepare the way for me. You must baptize me." Jesus went down into the darkness and chaos of the water, and John lifted him up into the light. And there are people who were there that day who said they saw a dove come down from heaven and rest on Jesus. And they heard a voice come from the clouds and say, "This is my son." Jesus went into the desert to discover more about who he was and what his work was going to be. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights. One day, a voice said to him, "Take these stones and turn them into food." And Jesus said, "No, humans need more than bread to live." Suddenly, it was as if he was on the highest part of the temple, and the voice said to him, "Jump and command God's angels to catch you." And Jesus said, "No, we do not test God. Then it was as if he could see all the kingdoms of the world, and the voice said to him, "Follow me, and I will make you king over all of this." And Jesus said, "No, I am to be king, but not that kind of king." And then Jesus went back across the Jordan and began to do his work. Jesus' work was to come close to people. His work was to come close to this blind man. He came so close that he touched his eyes. When Jesus came close to people, they changed. They could see things that they could never see before. And they could do things that they could never do before. They became well. Jesus also told parables. And finally, he knew that he had to become a parable. So he turned toward Jerusalem for the last time. Jesus went into Jerusalem at the time of the Passover, and the city was full. The people were looking for a king, but they weren't paying attention. Jesus didn't come into Jerusalem riding on a great white horse or on the shoulders of an army, but he came in on a donkey that he had borrowed. But still, people laid palm branches before him, which was the sign of kings. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Jesus went to the temple to teach, and at night, he went to the Mount of Olives with the 12 to pray. The temple guards said, "We will take him on Thursday." But on Thursday, they couldn't find him. That evening, Jesus and the 12 entered a home and went up the stairs into the upper room and shared their Last Supper together. After they were finished, Jesus took the bread and he gave thanks for it, and he broke the bread, and he said something like, "Whenever you share this bread, then I will be there." And then he took the wine and gave thanks for it, and he shared it with the disciples, and he said, "Whenever you do this, then I will be there with you." Suddenly Judas got up and left, and the rest sang a hymn and walked to the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. Jesus wanted to pray. When he was finished, Judas came out of the dark and greeted him. And that was the sign. Suddenly, the soldiers came out of the dark and arrested him. The night was a confusing one. The next day, Jesus was taken outside of the walls of the city and crucified. That afternoon, Jesus died. The sky grew dark. Jesus was taken down off the cross and buried in a cave, and a great stone was rolled in front of the entrance like a door. Saturday was so quiet, you could almost hear the earth breathing. On Sunday, It was the women who had the courage to go to the tomb to be close to Jesus. They wanted to remember, even if it was sad. When they got to the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled away and the tomb was empty. Jesus had died on the cross, but somehow he was still with them, just as he is with us, especially in the bread and the wine. When you look at this side, you know that this side is there. And when you look at this side, you know that the other side is there. And you cannot pull them apart. This is the mystery of Easter. And that makes all the difference. And so, the colors change. But wait a minute. There's something wrong. There's a beginning and a middle and an end. And if we have only this side, then the story has an end. But there is also this side. The ending is also a beginning. And so we cannot leave the story in a line. Let's see what we can do. Now, the story can go on forever. I wonder what part of this story you like best. I wonder what part is the most important part. I wonder where you are in this story.